Hello, everyone. This is technically not my first video because I just tried recording this and it went 20 minutes. So we're going to see if I can go a little faster. But these are sort of my catharsis for me to sort of sit down and talk about some of the issues as I see them and maybe as a little bit of personal therapy, right? So for today's video, I've chosen to talk about why I'm no longer willing to vote for Democrats or the left. Now, to be clear, I've never really ever voted for a Republican. I think one time I have. Locally, we have some people that flip flop. So, um, but a little bit of info about me. I grew up in a Republican town that was full of poverty, and it wasn't until I came to Rochester and realized that, you know, just from like, for example, lack of dental care. We call people toothless rednecks without understanding why they're toothless, or how the word redneck is offensive. It's okay to say, and I bet this video won't get flagged. But they're working next to other people in fields, and when you use those slurs, those are terrible slurs that make you an immediate racist, as they should, because the person's working hard in a field growing your food. That's where we're at, right? But back to the point at hand. Um, when I moved to the city, I saw things like dental offices for the first time. And I took advantage of them because I was able to. I didn't qualify for benefits. I worked and I specifically selected jobs that offered dental insurance because I was having a bunch of problems. And it turns out that I actually was, the problems were far worse than I knew. And things are fine now. But that really got me thinking about when I was younger, what the dichotomy about what the two sides think of each other. Just not qualifying for things, working so hard to get qualified, finding out that I had all these disadvantages growing up poor in a place without dental care, but being told I didn't have them. Now, generally speaking, I'm a pretty progressive person, and I don't think the left has really mastered what the word progressive is. And I'll give you an example. I've had several healthcare issues lately, not small ones. I've almost died twice because of things that have happened in our medical system. Now, so you would think that people would empathize with that. You would think that, particularly when I was told by a black doctor, when I said, "Hey, I'm having all these issues. I think I have a food intolerance." She said directly to me, "If I had $1 for every white person that came in here and said they had a food intolerance, I wouldn't have to work." Well, I did have a food intolerance, and it almost killed me. I actually had a heart attack. I now have permanent lifelong injuries in my GI tract from those. I'm not trying to say that I have it worse than anyone else, but I can tell you that as a person on the left who thought I will use this story to bolster the argument for socialized healthcare, I was actually slapped in the face and flabbergasted when I was told to sit down, shut up, and stop making it about me. Okay, so only certain people can have healthcare issues? Yeah, as it turns out. Because if I have healthcare issues and I make it about me, I'm taking from them. Now, obviously a person's not going to receive that feedback and they're not going to speak up, right? So every time I did, I was defriended. It doesn't matter to them. In fact, somebody I looked up to very much said to me directly, "I'm sorry that happened to you, but until generations of white people experience high levels of mortality and several peer-reviewed studies show it, I'm not going to even care, because right now, if we don't care about these other people, aren't we trying to build a system that serves everyone?" That's when I immediately became aware of how the left works. Now, I don't think anyone on the left is bad. I think they're genuinely good people, and I think that I was friends with them for a long time, and I still am with a few people. But I have to tell you that it's astounding to me the things that I see today that just rile me up, where it's like that's not progressive. And I'll take, for example, the healthcare thing. Progressive for people on the left is when you have a full ER and you've got people of color and white people, it's accepting that the white people are privileged and that we have to de-privilege them and lift certain people up on the queue of people to be seen so that they have better health outcomes. My argument is No, we shouldn't. We should make it so that when you go into the emergency room, no one has to be deprivileged or, brought down and triaged at a lower level because of their race. It scares me when I ask AI tools that are run by leftist companies theoretical questions like in an emergency room that is full, who should be seen first? Well, people of color are disproportionately blah, 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 blah. And so we're going to justify basically killing off other people because we don't want to address the problem. Now, how do we address the problem? Do we decide that privately run healthcare facilities should triage people based on race or expected outcomes? Or do we decide that that facility needs to see everyone that walks in there within 15 minutes, period, and that is it? To me, that's progressive. Progressive isn't deciding we're going to get even with people because 2 generations ago they were doing better, so now we're going to make them do worse by deprioritizing them. We got to take them out and put other people into the mix. No, we don't. We have to make the system work. We have to make the system work. In a truly race-blind society, shouldn't matter which race you are when you walk into an ER. And this is the thing that drove me out of the left. The answer is to fix the system. It's not to reprioritize different people in the system. Oh, there we go. Now we've put other people at the top of the list. Why do we have a list? If you go into an ER, it's because you don't have another option. You shouldn't have to wait 24 hours to be seen. I was dumped into an ER that was full of people with a cough because migrants, they can't go anywhere else. Cool. But why was I deprioritized with a head injury? I was unconscious drooling on myself for 6 hours and I was told that it wasn't a priority visit. Okay, well, why are they? Well, because we have to change the system and lift other people up. No. No one should sit in an ER for more than 15 minutes. Emergency means emergency. If you walk in with a cough, that's not an emergency. You should be redirected down the hall to a clinic where you can be seen for the cough. And emergencies should go this way where you can be seen for the emergency. That's fixing the system. But we've decided on the left that we're not going to do that because the system donates a lot of money to put these people in power. They set the narratives. Depending on who's watching this, you probably either watch a news channel or a social media outlet that is run by a very rich person on the right or a very rich person on the left. Every day, all of your narratives, all of your thoughts, all of your reactions and everything are calculated and thrown back in your face with one item in mind. The system will continue to run the way it is. You will fight amongst yourselves to decide who's going to be at the top of the list. That's not progressive. Progressive is fixing the system. Another example in my city, okay, I live in an upstate New York City. There's snow and ice probably 4 or 5 months of the year, but we also know that cars are bad and I am bad for driving my car. We know that. We know that all cars are bad. We're not going to tell people not to drive big trucks. We're going to tell them not to drive at all. And we're going to do that by making you sit at every light more and more, by reducing lanes, by not enforcing traffic law. We're going to just make your drive as miserable as possible because you need to know if you go to work or if you go to the grocery store that you've made a poor decision and you should never have left your house. But what are we going to do about when you need to go to the doctor's office? Well, isn't there one up the road? Just don't drive. But there isn't one up the road. Just move. Well, where am I supposed to move? Well, you're supposed to move downtown to a giant big apartment tower that we just put up. Okay, but there's no jobs there. Sure there are, but they're owned by the developer, right? This is about consolidating your customer base. This is not about actually fixing the housing crisis. It's not about fixing cars. You want to draw a little circle and you don't want me to leave the circle with my money. Because at the same time, we're talking about the dream and home ownership and building equity. Well, why am I not entitled to that? It's astounding to me that I'm not entitled to a college education, and I never have been. Never gotten help for college. Never gotten help for college. But we're talking about how it should be free to people that just walk into the country. And now we're deciding again who the winners and losers are. I'm the winner. No, I'm the winner. No, I'm the winner. That's American politics. It's not progressive. Progressive is why is college expensive for anybody? And also, by the way, I understand that we've got to decide whether black people or white people get to go to college, but as a society, aren't we all better off if we all get to go to college? Even if I've already got a job, doesn't it make more sense to make education as cheap as possible so that I can continue to educate myself and become a more valuable person in the workplace? Doesn't it benefit our society if we're all more educated and it's more publicly available? No, no, Pete. Sit down. Sit down. We're not going to pay for that. We just need to pick a winner. That's what the left does. No, don't get me wrong. The right does too. But the right knows they're doing it. The left has no idea and they're not interested in hearing it. Last, the left is brutal with this. The left is brutal with this. I criticized us giving $100 million to one of the richest people in the country to build an apartment complex that will have 140 units. It's like $700,000 a unit. We gave that money to the developer. They didn't put their money in it. We gave it to them to build apartments that are going to be, $2,000 a month. And if you can't afford said apartment, don't you worry none, because the government will pay your rent for you. Why? We built the building. Why are we paying the rent? Why is anybody paying the rent? We built the building. Surely that'll be made up in the taxes they pay. Oh, nope. 20 years without taxes. And if you criticize it, you hate people of color. You hate the poor. No, I don't want rich people to get $100 million of taxpayer money to build a building that they're going to collect hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in rent, some of it guaranteed by the government. They're not going to pay for anything. Nothing. We go on about Jeff Bezos. Oh, oh, look at me. I hate Jeff Bezos and I hate Bill Gates. I'm such a leftist. Why don't you hate the guy that just got $100 million to build the housing that's driving the price of your housing up? Well, because it's housing the poor. There's better ways to do this stuff. And on the left, we're not willing to talk about it. I will tell you that exact conversation got me screamed at by two friends, and I'm not only have they refused to talk to me anymore, but they refuse to be in a room with me. And when they tell people that, now they say, well, he's a Republican and he's racist and whatever. So then it's like, well, nobody asks any questions about what I actually said. We just know that I have to be pushed out. Scarlet letter, right? R, right? Because I disagreed with D, I'm R. And so now, they make an effort to make sure that in any party or any group of people where I might be invited, that I'm not there to defend myself as they trash talk me. Well, why? Because this is just what we do now on the left. If you don't agree with me, you're fascist. You know, that's not fixing the system to me. Now, we don't actually want the system fixed on the left because the left is funded by the rich and the rich run the system. So we're interested in seeing who can we change who benefits from the system? Sure, because the rich are still getting their money no matter what. It's just a little less social upset and upheaval if we change who's benefiting from it for a while. But we're not going to fix the systems. No, I'm not. I'm not a leftist. I'm certainly not a rightist. I am a common sense person, and those people are few and far between. I will leave this video on one last thought. I have a really good friend who served overseas in the Middle East. Used to be a Republican, started to think a lot about how, they're not really helping the situation. So he became kind of an independent. But then as soon as he did, it became socially so unacceptable for this person to voice an opinion that you can now watch him just cave on any conversation about the Middle East. He served there. He knows what the terrorism and things that are happening are. And yet, because people on the left will not allow that to be said, his whole entire concept of reality has changed. He's not interested in talking about what happened over there anymore. Because if he looks at reality, he'll be excised from it. He'll lose his friends. He'll lose customers. He'll lose people in his life. That's happened to me. That's happened to several people in my life. It's just not how you run a political party. I mean, it is. The Germans figured that out, right? I'm just trying to figure out which side's going to end up in power at this point. Either way, I'm not going to be involved. I will not benefit, and the systems will not change to do anything but screw me. And that's why I'm not a leftist anymore. I'm not a rightist. I have an internal conflict every time it's an election season. I often will only vote for the people that I think are good people, and I will write in myself or friends or family. But I don't. I tend not to vote anymore because why? I didn't choose the people on the ballot. They were chosen by a party that, at the federal, state, county, and local levels, have all aligned their planks, and they've all their donors have made decisions long before I had a say in anything. They've decided what that candidate's going to say, what they're going to stand for, what their website's going to look like. Does it benefit me to vote for them? Mm-mm, not in the slightest. It doesn't matter if I vote for them. We've gerrymandered our government to a point where we're more interested in gerrymandering areas than we are serving the voters. It's okay when Illinois gerrymanders, but it's not okay when Texas. Oh wait, it's the other way around. It's okay when Texas gerrymanders, but it's not okay when Illinois. Oh wait, like that's what we're doing. Is it solving a problem? Nope. But my party will win. What are you going to get from it? You know, that's where I'm at. So hopefully that explains why I just, for my friends, you already know, for the people that have cut me out of your lives because you've made decisions about me, look, I'm happy to do my thing. Maybe this video explains it. Likely to be seen by a lot of people I don't know. And hopefully it gets you to think maybe about what your definition of progress is. Because for me, progress isn't changing who waits in a waiting room while their life slips out of their hands. It's changing the waiting room so that you don't have to wait. And I just don't see interest in that from either party. When that changes, I'll do a video about it. But until then, that's my thoughts.